There's a moment, quiet but unmistakable, when the soul begins to stir. You may not hear it at first. It doesn't shout. It doesn't demand. It only whispers, like the wind brushing through ancient trees, like a memory that never truly left, like the soft breath before dawn, when everything is still, suspended between what was and what could be. This whisper is not a thought. It's not a wish. It's a remembrance, a sacred nudge from the infinite, calling you back to yourself. You felt it in the silence between responsibilities, in the hollow after the high, in the ache that asks, is this all there is? That question is the doorway. That ache is the invitation. You were not born to live on repeat. You were not meant to blend in, to shrink, to follow paths carved by fear. You came here to awaken, and the whisper is your first guide. It comes softly when the noise of the world fades, when you're too tired to pretend, when you finally sit still long enough to hear what's always been there. It says, there's more. There's truth you've forgotten. There's power you buried under stories that were never yours. And when you hear it, really hear it, something begins to shift. The air feels different. The old patterns don't fit. The longing grows louder than the logic. And you start to remember, not with your mind, but with your being. You remember that you're not broken. You are not lost. You are not behind. You are becoming. Becoming the one you were before the world told you who to be. Becoming the light before it was dimmed. Becoming the soul before it was silenced. You don't need to understand it. You only need to feel it, to allow the whisper to reach you, to follow it, like a thread woven through time, back to the center of who you are. There is no map. There are no steps. There is only presence and willingness and breath. Close your eyes. Feel the weight leave your shoulders. Let go of trying. Let go of proving. Let go of becoming. You are already enough. You always were. And now you are ready to remember. Not because you must, but because your soul is calling. Because the whisper has become too loud to ignore. And you are listening. And in that listening, something ancient awakens. A knowing. Not the kind you learn in books or hear from teachers, but the kind that rises from deep within, as if 1,000 lifetimes have waited for this moment. The whisper does not speak in sentences. It speaks in sensation, in the shiver on your skin when truth brushes past, in the stillness that hushes every thought, in the pull towards something you cannot name, but feel with your entire being. This is not the beginning. It is the remembering of what began long ago, before the roles, before the noise, before the forgetting. Do you feel it? That sacred pulse beating beneath your routines? That breath that isn't quite yours, but more than yours, as if the universe itself is breathing through you? You are not separate from the infinite. You are not a fragment. You are the whole, experiencing itself in form. Your consciousness clothed in skin. Eternity with a heartbeat. A creator in disguise. And the moment you allow this truth in, not just as an idea, but as a felt reality, the world begins to shift. Not because the world changed, but because your vision did. You begin to see beauty where you once saw burden. You begin to see purpose in the pauses. You begin to see yourself, not as the one striving to arrive, but as the one who already is. The whisper grows louder. It becomes a voice, steady and soft. You are here for something sacred. Not to chase what others told you matters, not to fit into frames too small for your spirit, but to embody what you already are, a mirror of the infinite, a vessel of light, a remembering in motion. The first whisper is not a message from outside of you. It is you calling you back to truth. And truth doesn't argue. It doesn't convince. It simply is. It waits with perfect stillness for you to stop running. And now, you have paused long enough to hear it. You don't need a plan. You don't need permission. You only need presence. Feel your feet. Feel your breath. Feel the quiet power that fills the space between your thoughts. That is the whisper. That is you. The mind will try to return. It will ask, what now? What should I do with this? But the soul does not speak in shoulds. It speaks in silence, in knowing, in resonance. Let that be enough. This chapter of your journey is not about fixing. It is not about striving. It is about sinking into yourself, remembering that the door was never locked, only forgotten. The way forward is not a path. It's a surrender, a falling into trust, into awareness, into your own sacred unfolding. And as you rest here, in this stillness, in this truth, the next chapter begins not with effort, but with emergence. Because now you're listening. Now you are remembering. Now you are ready to let go of what you thought was real and step into what has always been. Beneath the layers, beneath the doubt, beneath the noise, there is only light. And you, made of it. Let's begin. There comes a time, soon after the whisper is heard, when the soul must face what has kept it asleep. It is not enough to awaken. One must also rise through the fog, through the illusions, through the walls built over years of forgetting. Because awakening is not a moment. It is a dismantling. It is the slow unraveling of every belief that told you. You are not enough. You are too much. You had to earn your worth. You had to prove your light. This chapter is not soft. It is sacred confrontation, a loving demolition. You are not here to decorate the prison of your conditioning. You're here to walk out of it, to look the inherited voices in the eye and say, I hear you and I release you. What lives inside you that does not belong to you? Whose fear are you still carrying? Whose approval are you still chasing? What part of you is still living according to someone else's story? Let the questions echo. This is the unveiling, not of a new identity, but the truth beneath every mask. And it is not comfortable. The truth rarely is, because truth strips away everything that made you feel safe in your smallness. It does not allow you to stay hidden. It does not permit the lie of unworthiness. Truth asks for your full presence. It demands your full power, and it frees you even if it breaks you open first. There is a woman. She walks through the desert with a mirror strapped to her back. She has carried it for years, never looking into it, afraid of what it might reveal, afraid of what she might remember. One day, exhausted and stripped by the heat of her own healing, she removes the mirror. She looks, and in the reflection, she does not see failure. She does not see weakness. She sees light. Worn, yes. Weathered, yes. But pure, radiant, endless. She does not recognize herself, because what she sees is not who the world told her to be, but who she has always been beneath the survival. She falls to her knees, not in defeat, but in devotion, because the unveiling is holy. And now, it is your turn to take off what you've worn to be loved, to set down what you've carried to be accepted, to look at yourself in the full light of truth and say, I remember you, and I choose you, not the image, not the role, but the raw, divine essence beneath it all. Take a breath. Let this be a moment of shedding, of release. Breathe out the stories. Breathe out the guilt. Breathe out the tightness in your chest that came from holding it all together. You no longer have to hold it together. You get to let it fall apart. You get to fall apart, not as a failure, but as a sacred act of rebirth. You're not breaking down. You're breaking through. Fall apart. Let the weight you've carried for decades dissolve in the light of this moment. Let the version of you that was built to survive begin to soften, crack, and shed, because survival taught you to shrink, to please, to numb, to pretend. But your soul did not come here to survive. It came here to awaken. And awakening requires undoing. Not because you are wrong, but because you are ready to live without the armor, ready to speak without the script, ready to feel without permission, ready to love without the fear of losing. You are allowed to become unrecognizable to who you once were. Because the truth is, you were never meant to stay the same. The river does not apologize for changing course. The fire does not beg to be small. The moon does not explain why it disappears. So why should you? Let yourself change. Let yourself evolve. Let yourself grow out of the cage you no longer fit inside. Even if that cage was called love. Even if that cage was called culture. Even if that cage was called you. Breathe. The unveiling is not only about seeing your chains. It is about realizing they were never locked. You have always been free. You were just taught to fear your own freedom. Freedom is not loud. It is not reckless. True freedom is peace. Peace with your path. Peace with your past. Peace with your power. Peace does not arrive when everything is perfect. It arrives when you finally stop betraying yourself. When you stop negotiating your truth for someone else's comfort. When you stop shaping yourself into something acceptable and start expanding into something authentic. This is the work now, not to change for the world, but to return to who you were before the world convinced you to become someone else. Return to the breath. Return to the body. Return to the soft knowing behind your ribs that says, "This is who I am, and I will not abandon myself again." Let this be your vow, not to be perfect, not to be fearless, but to be honest, to feel what you feel, to say what you mean, to walk where your soul is pointing, even if no one else understands. Because the truth is, they don't need to understand. You do. You don't owe the world your silence. You don't owe anyone the version of you that makes them comfortable. You only owe yourself the truth. That truth might burn. That truth might shatter. But that truth will set you free. And on the other side of that freedom, there's a stillness waiting for you. A life that fits. A breath that expands. A love that doesn't ask you to shrink to receive it. And you'll be there. Whole. Unhidden. Unchained. Finally, you. And now, in this space where everything false has begun to fall away, you can feel the truth starting to rise. Not in grand declarations, not in loud revelations, but in the quiet. The quiet is where the soul speaks most clearly. The quiet is where you begin to re-meet yourself, not as an idea, but as a presence. You sit with yourself stripped raw, unmasked, and you realize this is what freedom feels like. It's not glittering. It's not dramatic. It's not something you shout about. It's a steady exhale, a soft release, a gentle homecoming. You begin to notice things differently. Your own voice sounds softer. Your breath feels slower. The world becomes less sharp. You begin to hear your own truth in the spaces where silence used to live. And in that truth, you begin to rebuild, not with effort, but with integrity, with presence, with love. Love not as a performance, but as a remembering. You love yourself in ways you were never taught, not through praise, but through permission. Permission to rest, permission to take up space, permission to feel and not explain, permission to not always be okay. You stop measuring your worth in progress. You stop defining yourself by your productivity. You realize that your being, simply your being, is sacred. And from that sacred place, everything begins to reorder itself. People shift, dreams realign, old habits dissolve, new instincts emerge. This is not reinvention. This is realignment. You're not becoming someone new. You are unbecoming everything that isn't you. You're no longer asking the world who you are. You are remembering who you've always been. And as that memory settles deeper into your bones, you no longer need to explain yourself. You become quiet, not out of fear, but because the inner noise has faded. There is peace in your presence now, weight in your words, light in your stillness. You've peeled away enough of the illusion to see the essence. You, without the roles, without the masks, without the stories. Just you, breathing, aware, and free. This is the unveiling, and it doesn't end here. It never ends, it deepens. Because truth is not a destination. It is a way of being, it is a way of walking, of speaking, of choosing. Every day is another layer coming off, another step home, another chance to love yourself more honestly than before. Let the world adjust to the new vibration you carry. Let the people who cannot meet your truth fall away. Let the future you once feared become a space of possibility. And let this moment, this breath, this silence, this remembering, be your altar. This is the holy work, and you're doing it. Now, fully, finally. And what comes next will be born from this place, from your clarity, your courage, and your quiet. Let's go there together. From this new place within you, there is no rush to arrive, because you've already landed, not at a destination, but in yourself. You begin to understand. The journey was never outward. The search was never for something beyond the stars. It was always about returning to what was hidden beneath your skin. You're not lost. You're not broken. You're not late. You're simply unveiling what was buried under years of noise, expectation, and inherited fear. And now that you've touched that truth, now that you've looked it in the eyes and dare to stay, your life begins to bend toward it. Not because you force it to, but because truth is magnetic. It pulls everything toward resonance. The more honest you become with yourself, the more everything not in alignment begins to fall away. Yes, some things may leave. Yes, some people may not understand. Yes, the old comfort may try to whisper you back into sleep. But now you know the cost of ignoring yourself. And that cost is far greater than the discomfort of change. So you choose differently. You choose silence over self-betrayal, stillness over rushing, truth over performance, freedom over familiarity. You start speaking with more intention. You stop explaining what no longer needs to be justified. You stop seeking permission from places that were never meant to validate you. You begin to embody what you used to chase. And from that embodiment, something sacred is born. A deeper breath, a wider heart, a more grounded presence. You begin to feel safe in your own body. Not because the world changed, but because you did. You're no longer waiting for someone else to come save you. You have remembered the way back to yourself. And that memory becomes your foundation. Not something you have to hold on to, but something that now holds you. You can rest in it, trust in it, live from it. This is the gift of the unveiling. Not just to see what was hidden, but to realize that what was hidden was always sacred, always whole, always enough. And now, that sacredness is no longer a secret. It moves with you. It breathes through you. It speaks in the way you listen. It loves in the way you stay with yourself. Even in the mess, even in the quiet, especially in the quiet, because in that quiet, you finally met the real you. Not the version you were taught to be, not the one who needed to be palatable, pleasant, or praised, but the one who is eternal, untouched, unshaken, unbound. And that version of you, that essence, is ready to rise, not in rebellion, but in reverence. Let us rise together. And so you rise, not like thunder, not like wildfire, but like light returning to a room that forgot it was never dark. You rise with a grace that doesn't need to be noticed, a clarity that doesn't need to be explained, a peace that doesn't need to be defended. Because now you know, truth is not something you speak louder. Truth is something you become. You rise not to escape what you were, but to honor it, to thank every version of yourself who walked in confusion, in fear, in longing, carrying you forward even when you couldn't see the way. You rise to love what once felt unlovable, to embrace what was once exiled, to return every fractured piece of yourself back into wholeness. This is how healing truly happens. Not by erasing the past, but by rewriting your relationship with it. You begin to see your scars not as signs of failure, but as places where the light got in, places where you met yourself, places where something broke and something brighter took its place. You no longer seek to be healed. You choose to live as someone who already is, whole, rooted, awake. And this choice changes everything. Because when you stop trying to fix yourself, you start trusting yourself. You begin to walk into each moment with your shoulders soft, your jaw unclenched, your chest open. And suddenly, life doesn't feel like something to control anymore. It feels like something to collaborate with. Every challenge becomes a conversation. Every trigger becomes a teacher. Every breath becomes a prayer. You stop running. You stop racing. You stop shrinking. And in that space, that sacred, unguarded space, something ancient flows through you. Creation, not of things, not of titles, but of presence. A new frequency emerges. And with it, new people, new paths, new possibilities. But more importantly, a new you, a truer you, not built, not sculpted, but revealed. Because the truth is, you were never becoming anything. You were only ever taking off the layers that were keeping you from yourself. And now you're here, and you can breathe. Not just air, but presence, but wholeness, but life itself. And life meets you differently now, because you're meeting it from the inside. So as we close this chapter, know this: you're no longer asleep inside a borrowed story. You are awake. Awake in your breath. Awake in your body. Awake in the truth that you belong to yourself. You have broken the chains. You have unveiled the light. And now, you walk in it. Let us continue. There is a moment in every soul's journey when the seeking must end. Not because the answers have all been found, but because the seeker realizes, I'm what I was searching for. No more waiting. No more deferring power to something outside. No more hoping the light will come. You are the light. You've always been. Now the question is no longer, what do I want to have? But who am I willing to become? Because the universe does not respond to desire. It responds to identity. It responds to energy. It responds to the version of you that you allow yourself to become in this very breath. You cannot attract what you are not aligned with. You cannot receive what your body still doubts it deserves. You cannot call on what you are unwilling to become. This is not punishment. This is power. You are not here to wait. You are here to embody, to bring the vibration of your future into your present. An embodiment begins with the smallest things. How you speak to yourself when no one is listening. How you rise in the morning, rushed or reverent. How you walk, how you breathe, how you choose. You cannot speak abundance and live in lack. You cannot visualize freedom and embody fear. You cannot ask for wholeness while living in self-rejection. What you hold in your energy is louder than any prayer you whisper. So now, the invitation is this. Don't become the version of yourself who has it. Become the version of yourself who is it. Walk as her. Breathe as him. Sit, eat, speak. Love as the you who has already received. Not as a game, not as a trick, but as a truth. Because every reality you can imagine is already real. It exists now. It is already done. It is already vibrating somewhere in the quantum field. And your job isn't to chase it. Your job is to match it, to meet it, to merge with it, not by force, but by frequency. This is the sacred law that governs all creation. You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And when you become it, the universe has no choice but to rearrange itself around your new vibration. It's not magic. It's alignment. So who are you now in this breath? Not in theory, not in intention, but in energy. Who are you when no one is watching? When nothing is performing? When you're alone with your presence? because that is the version of you that's calling reality toward you. Not your words, not your vision board, not your plan, but your state of being. The truth is, you've been taught to focus on doing. More effort, more action, more movement. But this path is not about doing more. It's about being deeper, being more honest, being more grounded, being more aligned with the frequency of what you already are in your soul. The doing will come, but the doing will be inspired, not desperate, rooted, not reactive. It will emerge from alignment, not in search of it. The you who already has the life you're asking for. What does that version of you feel like in the body? What do they say no to without guilt? How do they carry themselves through disappointment? How do they speak in a mirror? What do they tolerate? What do they release? What do they embody? Find that version, not in the mind, but in the nervous system, in the breath, in the posture, in the stillness. And when you find them, even for a moment, hold it. Let it live in you. Let it inform your next word, your next step, your next boundary. This is where everything changes, because now the world isn't responding to the version of you who is waiting, but to the one who has already become. So try this. Breathe. Close your eyes. See yourself standing in the version of your life where everything is aligned. The peace, the love, the purpose, the clarity, the abundance. Feel it, not like a fantasy, but like a memory returning home. Let your body soften. Let your breath deepen. Let the knowing rise. You're not reaching for it. You're remembering it. And in this remembrance, something in your vibration shifts. And that shift sends a ripple into the field. And the field listens. Because it is you. The external is only ever a mirror of the internal. So if you want the outside to change, come home to the inside. Become the reflection of the life you seek. Become the resonance of the world you desire. And let the world meet you in your truth. This is embodiment. This is the frequency of fulfillment. This is your real power. And you are ready to live from it. Let us keep going. You've touched the vibration of your becoming. Now, the work is to live inside it. Not just during meditation, not just when the world is quiet, but in the middle of the ordinary, when the dishes pile up, when the email is unanswered, when the noise returns. That's where embodiment becomes real. Can you still remember who you are when nothing is going right? Can you still breathe like your future is certain, when the present feels uncertain? This is the threshold where most turn back. They feel the energy shift once. They taste alignment, but then the world doesn't move fast enough. The old story starts whispering again, and they fall into doubt. But you are not here for temporary transformation. You are here for lasting embodiment. And that means staying rooted, even when your mind tempts you to uproot. It means holding your vibration, even when your environment hasn't caught up yet. It means choosing again and again to live in the identity of your truth, even when the results are still invisible. Because the invisible always comes first. Everything begins in energy. Everything. You don't plant a seed and dig it up every day to see if it's growing. You water it. You trust it. You create the conditions for it to thrive. And then you wait, not in passivity, but in faith. Faith is not a belief in the outcome. Faith is an embodiment of the frequency, of already having received. When you walk in faith, you don't question the timing. You don't chase. You don't beg. You move with grace, because you know that the energy you hold has already shaped what's coming. It's done. And now, you're simply living as the one who already knows it. So each day becomes a rehearsal of your highest timeline. Not for show, but for truth. Speak as if the future is listening. Walk as if your soul is watching. Decide as if the world is responding to your frequency. Because it is. This is how reality is rewritten. Not by force, but by frequency. Not by striving, but by remembering. By tuning yourself to the vibration of the life you are calling in. And not once, every day, every moment, especially when it's hard, because that's when it counts. You're not performing anymore. You're not hoping anymore. You are living it now, before it arrives. So it has no choice but to. And this is embodiment. And you're walking it. Let's continue. There's a quiet power in consistency. Not the kind that hustles, not the kind that burns out to feel worthy, but the kind that returns again and again to the truth, to the breath, to the body, to the vibration you've chosen to carry. Embodiment is not a single decision. It is a devotion, a sacred rhythm. It's waking each morning and asking, who am I becoming today? And answering not with words, but with presence. The way you pour your tea, the way you speak your name, the way you honor your boundaries, your energy, your voice. Every small act becomes part of the frequency. And that frequency becomes your field. And that field becomes magnetic. You don't need to force what's meant for you. You only need to align, to clear space, to embody the yes before it arrives. When you do this long enough, you stop chasing proof. You stop needing signs. You stop asking when, because you feel it in your bones, in your cells, in the silence between your thoughts. You are the answer. You are the sign. And suddenly, life becomes less about waiting and more about witnessing, watching the physical catch up to the energetic, watching the outer world begin to mirror the inner, watching opportunities, people, healing, expansion, not fall from the sky, but rise up to meet the you you've chosen to become. And it feels natural, effortless, like it was always meant to be, because it was, not as a reward, but as a reflection. You didn't earn it. You aligned with it. You matched it. You remembered it. So when it arrives, there's no shock, no unworthiness, no panic, just a soft smile and the knowing, of course, I'm here now. And that is the beauty of embodiment. You don't chase your future. You become it. And it finds you. Every time, let us move forward. And as it finds you, something deep within you softens. The hunger that once drove you fades into peace. The grasping releases its grip, because you're no longer living in the gap between who you are and what you want. You're living in union. Not everything will be perfect. Not every moment will feel magical, but you'll be different. You will no longer measure your worth by your progress. You will no longer treat delay as rejection. You will see the sacred in the process, the blessing in the becoming, the miracle in the mundane, because that's what embodiment truly is. Bringing the sacred into the everyday. No more separation. No more sacred on Sundays and survival on Mondays. No more high-frequency words with low-frequency choices. You live the truth now, in your posture, in your rhythm, in your presence. And that presence begins to heal things you didn't even realize were fractured. Your relationships deepen. Your creativity expands. Your nervous system relaxes, because your soul is no longer at war with your actions. There is harmony between who you are, what you believe, and how you move. And that harmony creates momentum. Not the rush kind, not the frantic kind, but the steady, grounded kind. The kind that builds legacy. The kind that rewrites timelines. The kind that realigns lifetimes of forgetting. You become a lighthouse, not because you are loud, but because you are anchored, unshaken, certain. Your light no longer flickers with opinions. Your direction no longer shifts with approval. You are living from within, and the outside simply begins to reflect that. This is the power you've always had, not the power to control, but the power to align, the power to choose who you are in every breath, especially when it's hard, especially when it's quiet, especially when no one is watching. And now, you choose wholeness. You choose to walk as the one who is already whole, already enough, already free. This is the frequency of fulfillment. This is the ground where miracles land. This is the moment where your life becomes your ceremony. You are no longer becoming. You are being, and the world can feel it. Let's continue. Everything around you begins to respond. Not instantly, not always in the way you imagined, but unmistakably. A subtle shift, a softness in the eyes of those who once misunderstood you. A door that had long been closed, now creaking open. A conversation that seems ordinary, but leaves you changed. You're not reacting anymore. You're responding. From a center, from presence, from truth. This is the natural rhythm of embodiment. Less force, more flow. Less proving, more allowing. Less searching, more seeing. You notice things you used to miss. The way light moves across your room in the early hours. The sound of your own breath in the stillness. The way your body speaks before your mouth does. You are more available to the moment because you are no longer trying to escape it. And in that availability, everything becomes a messenger, even hard things. The closed doors, the silence, the stillness that used to feel like being stuck now feels like preparation, like the soil softening before the sprout. You're no longer afraid of what isn't here yet because you know what's coming. You've already become it. So you live as if it's already true because in your field it is. Your energy is no longer begging for the future to arrive. Your energy is welcoming it, and that welcome is magnetic. You become a space of receiving, without effort, without fear, without needing to clutch or convince. You know who you are. You know what you carry. You know that every breath is a bridge between vibration and reality. So now, you move differently. You walk into rooms, and you don't shrink. You speak, and your words land. You rest, and you don't feel guilty. You love, and you don't abandon yourself. You've stopped negotiating your soul for safety. You've stopped asking the world for permission. You are the permission, and this is where the miracles start to feel ordinary. Not because they're less powerful, but because they become normal to your nervous system. You expect them now. You live with them. You walk with them, not because you are lucky, but because you are aligned. And the deeper you root into this embodiment, the more you realize you were never meant to wait. You were meant to become, and you have. Let's move forward. There's a new silence within you now, not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of knowing, a deep, unwavering stillness that no longer flinches at the unknown. This stillness becomes your compass. It tells you when to move, when to pause, when to release, when to receive. You no longer ask, is this the right step? You ask, does this match who I become? Because now, your path isn't defined by logic. It's revealed through resonance. You're not following maps. You're following frequency. You trust the feeling in your chest, the expansion, the openness, the yes that comes without words. And just as clearly, you recognize the no, the contraction, the hesitation, the subtle pull away from what no longer matches your field. You honor that too, without guilt, without apology, because you no longer betray yourself to belong. You no longer abandon truth for comfort. You're safe in your body now, safe in your truth, safe in the energy of who you are becoming. And because of that, you are unshakable, not hard, not closed, just rooted in clarity, rooted in self-trust, rooted in the unbreakable bond between your soul and your presence. This is where life begins to dance with you. Synchronicities arrive like breath. Ideas flow through you like rivers. Support comes not as rescue, but as reflection. People begin to treat you differently, not because they've changed, but because you have. They feel your boundaries before you speak them. They feel your energy before you enter the room. They feel your clarity, and either rise to meet it or fade away gently, and you let them. because you're no longer trying to hold on to what isn't aligned. You are no longer afraid of the space that follows release. You know that emptiness is just preparation for what's real. You don't fill the void with noise anymore. You honor it. You let it breathe. You trust what it's clearing the way for. You understand now that embodiment is not an achievement. It's a way of living. It's a relationship with yourself, a moment-to-moment devotion. And the deeper that devotion goes, the more sacred everything becomes. The quiet mornings, the pauses between plans, the meals you eat with intention, the words you no longer need to say, the presence you bring into the simplest tasks. Everything becomes holy when you live from wholeness. And you're living from wholeness now. Not perfectly, not always, but honestly, fully. Finally, you're no longer waiting for the world to catch up. You're the world catching up with itself through you. And the path ahead is wide open. Let's continue. You begin to understand that what you once called the path is actually you. Every step forward is not towards something, but deeper into yourself, deeper into your knowing, deeper into your remembering, deeper into the frequency of the life that was always yours. Not earned, not fought for, but embodied. The separation you used to feel between the present and the future now feels thinner, transparent. You can touch what you once only imagined. You can taste what once felt so far away. Because the veil between desire and manifestation is dissolving. You don't dream with desperation anymore. You dream with intimacy. You don't ask from lack. You thank from alignment. And that shift, that sacred inner shift, changes everything. You now see yourself not as a receiver of miracles, but as a channel for them. The miracle flows through you, through your voice, your breath, your presence. You become the living embodiment of what you once believed was outside of you. And it's not arrogant. It's not ego. It's natural. It's true. You begin to see how your energy creates, how your thoughts, when aligned with feeling, become blueprints for form, how your body becomes a magnet, not for what's easy, but for what's real. And from that place of embodiment, you stop trying to be liked, understood, chosen. You were chosen. You chose yourself. You chose your truth. You chose to live as if the divine breath that created stars also lives in your chest, because it does. And now, your life reflects it, not in constant fireworks, but in quiet confirmation, in the peace you feel when nothing is happening, in the love you feel without needing to earn it, in the clarity that rises without thinking. This is not a fantasy. This is home. You've come home to yourself, and the world has no choice but to echo that. The old questions begin to fade. When will it come? Am I enough? Will it last? Because now you know, you are it. You are enough. And what's real only expands. So now you walk as the one who carries light, not in your hands, but in your spine, in your voice, in your stillness. And because of that, you no longer chase. You attract. You no longer force. You align. You no longer fear. You embody. This is the sacred power of being. And now, you're ready for what comes next. Let's continue. Everything you see around you once lived in the unseen. The home you stand in, the words you speak, even your name. All of it was once just energy, an idea, a vibration held long enough to become form. Imagination is not fantasy. It is memory from the soul, a preview of a timeline that already exists, waiting only for your permission to make it real. This is the secret. You don't imagine things because they are far away. You imagine them because they are already near, already true in the field, already yours in the invisible. And so the invitation now is not to chase what you desire, but to visit it, to sit with it in the quiet of your mind, to breathe it into your body, to feel its presence so deeply that your nervous system accepts it as now. This is how you collapse the distance. not through force, but through familiarity. What you feel is real, consistently and clearly, must shape itself around you. It is not optional. It is law. Your imagination is not a game. It is a gateway. So when you close your eyes and see yourself in a version of your life that feels aligned, don't brush it off as a dream. Don't label it someday. Breathe into it. Expand inside it. Let it become your present. Feel the clothes. Feel the light in the room. Feel the peace in your chest. The love in your relationships. The clarity in your mission. The flow of abundance. The subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between what is imagined and what is real. So use it. Shape it. Let it. Become the artist of your own frequency. Paint your inner world with colors your eyes haven't yet seen. Speak in tones your voice hasn't yet expressed. Feel emotions your body hasn't yet anchored. And in doing so, you call those realities into form. You do not need to know how. You need to know what. You need to feel it before you see it. You need to remember that your imagination is not a wish. It's a recognition. You are not calling in what does not exist. You are choosing what already belongs to you in another dimension and bringing it here through the portal of your embodiment. So breathe, close your eyes, and remember the life that's waiting to be lived through you. It's not distant. It's not impossible. It's not outside of you. It's within, right here, right now. And it's ready to meet the you who finally believes it's real. Let's continue. The more often you visit this inner world, the more it begins to visit you. You'll start to feel glimpses of that reality in your current life. Tiny confirmations, soft alignments, sudden synchronicities. They are not coincidences. They are echoes of the frequency you've been holding, rippling back toward you from the field of all possibilities. Reality does not happen to you. It responds to you, to your vision, to your vibration, to your imagination when paired with belief. You're not here to simply react to life. You're here to shape it, to mold it with the sacred energy of what you see within. So begin to live like your vision is already true. Not because you're pretending, but because on a vibrational level, it is. Make your current moment a reflection of where you're going, not where you've been. If your future self walks with peace, walk with peace today. If your future self lives in gratitude, give thanks now. If your future self is surrounded by love, become a space where love is safe to land. This is the bridge from imagination to embodiment, from vision to vibration, from concept to creation. Do not underestimate the power of what you do when no one is watching. The quiet daydreams, the whispered affirmations, the feeling in your chest when you say to yourself, "This is who I really am." That energy is not invisible to the universe. It's the clearest language you speak. And when you hold that energy long enough, you don't have to chase. You don't have to fight. You don't have to force. Because what you've held inside becomes undeniable on the outside. Form follows frequency. Reality follows resonance. Your world bends to meet the energy you embody. So instead of asking, "When will it come?" ask, "How deeply can I feel it now? How clearly can I live from it today?" Because the timeline you want is already built. You just have to step into it and stay. Hold it. Anchor it. Be it. Even when it's hard. Even when nothing around you has changed yet. Even when the doubt creeps in. Because doubt doesn't mean you're off path. It means your old identity is dissolving. It means you're expanding. Stay with it and watch as life rearranges itself to reflect the world you've already built inside your breath. Let's keep going. You'll begin to notice the shift, not in flashes of fireworks, but in the gentle details, the way you respond to uncertainty, the way your body relaxes in situations that once triggered fear, the way peace becomes your default frequency, even when chaos tries to find you. This is the proof. Not what happens outside of you, but what awakens inside. You are becoming someone who no longer negotiates with doubt. You're becoming someone who trusts unseen things, more than the evidence of temporary circumstances. Because you've remembered the truth. Energy leads and matter follows. Always. So you guard your energy differently now. You speak more intentionally. You move slower. You listen deeper. You protect the vision inside of you, like a flame in a storm. Not because it is fragile, but because it is sacred. You don't allow fear to sit at the table anymore. You hear it. You acknowledge it, but you do not obey it. Instead, you return again and again to the vision, to the vibration, to the version of yourself who lives already inside that future. And you ask, how would they move through this moment? How would they respond? What would they let go of? What would they say yes to? And then you act as them, as you, because you're no longer becoming that version. You are remembering you always were. Your imagination isn't a fantasy, it's a message. It's the soul's way of showing you what's possible. If you choose to believe more in your vision than in your fear, every time you close your eyes and feel that life, you pull it closer, you anchor it in your cells, you shift the timeline, and it begins to show itself. A chance encounter, a moment of clarity, a doorway opening without effort. This is not magic. This is alignment. You no longer create from desperation. You create from devotion, from embodiment, from the sacred memory of what your soul already knows is yours. And with every breath, you become more fluent in this language of energy, of trust, of creation from the unseen. So don't stop imagining. Don't stop seeing it in your mind. Don't stop feeling it in your body. Because the more you see it within, the more you live it without. And the more you live it without, the more you realize you were never imagining it. You were remembering it. And now, it's remembering you. Let's continue. So now, your imagination is no longer a place you visit. It's a place you live from. It's not a retreat from reality. It's a blueprint for it. You begin to hold your vision not with urgency, but with reverence, not as something fragile you must protect, but as something inevitable you've already welcomed. And in this welcoming, your energy softens. There's less grasping, less proving, less pushing. You're no longer chasing the future. You're hosting it. It sits with you in your silence. It walks with you in your breath. It speaks with you in the quiet between thoughts. And now, life becomes a mirror that cannot help but reflect it. This is the mastery of creation. To see beyond what is, to believe beyond what has been, to feel with clarity, with certainty, what has not yet taken form, until form has no choice but to respond. And still, you don't rush. You know the oak does not push its way from seed to sky in a day. You know the sacred cannot be forced, only allowed. So you allow, you trust, you surrender to the rhythm of divine timing, without abandoning your frequency, because you are not here to control the outcome. You are here to match it. And every time your imagination and your embodiment align, you collapse the distance between idea and reality. You realize that the gap was never time. It was always identity. And now that you are being who you truly are, you no longer live in waiting. You live in welcoming. You live as if the dream is already your home. Because it is. Not out there. Not one day. But now, inside this breath, inside this body, inside this presence. This is how you create from the invisible. This is how the imagined becomes the experienced. This is how you become a vessel for the miraculous. Not because you reached it, but because you remembered you are it. Let's continue. Every word you speak is a spell. Every sentence, a thread woven into the fabric of your reality. Most people speak without knowing they are casting, without knowing that the tongue is a wand, and the vibration it releases echoes into the field of form. You felt it, the sting of words never unspoken, the warmth of words that heal without effort, the way a phrase, a sound, a whisper can change your breath, your posture, your entire day. This is not poetry. This is law. Words are frequency, and frequency is creation. So now, the invitation is not just to watch your words, but to honor them, to speak as one who knows the universe is listening, to speak as one whose voice is aligned with truth, not habit. Because every time you say, I am, you are not describing, you are creating, you are declaring to life itself. Shape me into this. Reflect this. Return this. So what are you saying? I'm tired. I'm stuck. I am lost. Or, I am light. I am power. I am aligned. The difference is subtle in sound, but seismic in impact. Your cells are listening. Your life is listening. Your words are not just reflections of your state. They reinforce your state. They lock in the vibration. They anchor your identity, and the field responds accordingly. Not to your wishes, but to your word. So speak life. Speak as the one you are becoming. Speak as the one who already is. Not to impress, not to convince, but to activate. Your voice can activate timelines. Your voice can end lifetimes of silence. Your voice can invite miracles that were waiting on nothing but your clarity. And that clarity lives in your sound. Let every word become a conscious creation. Let your voice become sacred architecture. Because it is. It always has been. So now, you no longer speak just to be heard. You speak to transmit. Every syllable becomes a vibration you carry with intention. Every sentence becomes a thread in the reality you're weaving. Every declaration becomes a doorway. When you say, I am, you're not stating a fact. You're opening a portal. You're calling energy into form. You're shaping your experience before it arrives. So begin your day not with complaint, but with command. I am centered. I am clear. I am open to receiving. I am already aligned with what's mine. Let these not be affirmations you recite from a mind, but frequencies you feel in the body. Let the sound come from your core. Let rise like breath. Let land. Because a word that is felt creates. A word that is empty only echoes. There's a difference, and you know it. You felt words that made your entire body exhale. You've spoken truths that rewrote your nervous system in real time. And you said things that felt hollow, rehearsed, false. That's the line between surface and soul. And now, you choose soul. You choose depth. You choose to speak from the place in you that cannot lie. Even in silence, you're speaking. Your energy is always communicating. So now, even your stillness becomes a language. Even your breath becomes a message. Even your gaze becomes a statement of who you are. This is what it means to walk in alignment. Not just to say the right words, but to become the vibration behind them. And in that becoming, you shift your life effortlessly, powerfully, permanently. Because what you declare consistently, with clarity, with presence, with feeling, must become your experience. This is not wishful thinking. This is embodiment. This is the sacred responsibility of your voice. So choose your words like seeds. Plant them in faith. Water them with attention. And give them the space to become real. Because they will. They already are. And as you begin to live as someone whose words build reality, you will speak less often, but with more weight, more fire, more truth. People will feel it, even when you say nothing, because you're no longer speaking to be understood. You are speaking because your being has something to say, and that is where the power lives. Not in the volume, but in the vibration. You begin to understand that silence is part of the language too. Not all power needs sound. Not all truth needs explanation. There's a presence that speaks louder than words ever could. And you carry it now. You speak when the energy asks for your voice. You rest when the energy asks for your stillness. You know when to declare, and you know when to simply be, because your embodiment has become your language. Your state has become your message. And the universe doesn't just hear your words. It hears your vibration. You're no longer casting spells with desperation. You're speaking from your center. Your I am now flows from certainty, not longing. I am here. I am whole. I am guided. I'm already what I was born to be. Say these slowly, not with your mouth, with your presence. Let them enter your system like light. Let them anchor into your breath. Let them rise from the bones. Because when your words come from the deep, they reach farther. They carry momentum. They reshape what you touch. You begin to bless the spaces you enter. You begin to soften those who listen. You begin to activate those who are ready. Just by being, you are not repeating affirmations. You are becoming declarations. You're not speaking into the void. You're co-creating with the field. So speak with reverence. Speak with honesty. Speak only what you want to live. Because the words you speak today are the home you will walk into tomorrow. And now you speak from within that future. Not hoping, but knowing. Not wishing, but witnessing. You no longer wonder if your words matter. You see how they've always shaped the air around you. And now, they shape with love, with truth, with grace. And that is more than enough. You carry your voice now like a sacred tool. Not something to be used carelessly, but something to be held with presence, with devotion. And it's not just about what you speak out loud. It's about the dialogue happening within. The quiet words whispered in your mind when no one hears them but you. Those words are the roots. They're the foundations of your energy. They're the silent builders of your identity. So now, even your thoughts become sacred. You begin to listen, to notice, to redirect. When a voice inside says, I can't, you pause and ask, who told me that? When it says, I'm not ready, you breathe and answer, but I'm already becoming. You're no longer allowing unconscious scripts to run the show. You're no longer letting fear narrate your life. You are rewriting the story, word by word, thought by thought, breath by breath. And in this new story, you are no longer the one waiting. You are the one witnessing what you've already created. You speak to your body with love. You speak to your future with certainty. You speak to your past with compassion. And you speak to the present as if it is listening. Because it is. This is the mastery of language. To speak from alignment. To create from clarity. To live from sound made sacred. And the more you live like this, the more your words ripple beyond you. Not just into your own reality, but into the lives around you. You become a tuning fork, an anchor of a different frequency. People feel more grounded near you. They breathe easier. They find themselves speaking more kindly. To you, to others, to themselves. Not because you told them to, but because you become a mirror. Your energy invites coherence. Your words carry peace. Your silence holds depth. This is your power, not to dominate the room, but to shift the field. Not to be loud, but to be true. And when you live like this, when your life becomes your message, you no longer need to convince anyone of anything. You simply speak, and the world adjusts. You simply breathe, and truth follows. You simply are, and that is enough. You no longer chase clarity, you speak it into being. Not because you're trying to control life, but because you finally understand your place in its creation. You're not a spectator. You're a participant. You are a partner with the unseen. And your voice, when aligned with truth, is one of the purest forms of power you hold. So now, each morning becomes a moment of activation. Not just waking up the body, but awakening the frequency. You open your eyes and ask, what energy will my voice carry today? What truths will I allow myself to speak? What future will I begin creating through sound, through tone, through intention? And with that awareness, you start speaking with more care, more reverence, more presence. Your voice becomes a vessel, not for noise, but for knowing, not for reaction, but for revelation. You no longer speak from wounds. You speak from wisdom. You no longer echo pain. You echo possibility. You stop repeating patterns. You start releasing patterns through declarations that rewire your reality. I'm no longer available for what dims my light. I choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, truth over fear. I speak life into my path, love into my cells, light into my future. And these aren't just phrases. They are vibrational codes. They are keys. Every time you speak them, you unlock new rooms inside yourself. New rooms in the quantum field. New timelines that were waiting for your yes. So say yes, with your voice, with your breath, with your being. And as you do, watch how the world begins to speak back. Not in language, but in synchronicity, in alignment, in precision. Because now, your reality has a new narrator. And it's you. Not the past version, not the scared version, but the version who has remembered. My voice shapes worlds. My sound is sacred. My presence is a prophecy. And now that you speak from that place, nothing is the same. Everything responds. And because everything responds, you become more intentional with your silence too. You begin to understand that not all things need to be said. Some truths are better lived than spoken. Some frequencies are better embodied than explained. You stop arguing to be understood. You stop trying to convince. You no longer lower your vibration just to be heard. Because now, your life is the loudest thing in the room. Your alignment speaks on your behalf. Your energy walks ahead of your words and prepares the space. You no longer need to say, I am powerful. You simply are. You no longer need to affirm your worth. You carry in your spine, in your breath, in the way you take up space without apology. You've realized that the most potent language you'll ever speak is the one your being delivers before your mouth ever opens. So now, you speak with care, not because you fear mistakes, but because you respect the creative force that lives in your voice. You understand that every I am is a thread you weave into your future. And so, you choose to weave with love, with clarity, with truth. And when the old voice returns, the one that says you're not enough, the one that whispers doubt into the silence, you don't argue with it. You rise above it. You speak louder, not in volume, but in vibration. You answer not with resistance, but with remembrance. I'm not that story anymore. I'm not that voice. I'm not the one who forgets. I am the one who remembers. And this remembering becomes your frequency, the tone of your presence, the quiet hum of power behind every word. Now, every space you enter shifts, not because you demand it, but because you carry something real. You've made your voice a sanctuary. You've made your language a temple. You've made your energy a living prayer. This is what happens when you reclaim the power of your word. And now, you speak only what you're ready to meet in the world. You speak only what you're willing to receive. You speak only what is true to your becoming. Because now you understand. Your words are not decoration. They are design. And the life you are living is responding to every syllable. You walk forward now with the full awareness that you are casting your future. In every moment you choose to speak life. No more casual declarations of limitation. No more unconscious self-judgment disguised as humor. No more giving your voice to what you no longer want to live. You've become sacred with your sound. You've become discerning with your declarations. You've become intentional with your identity. You no longer say, I'm trying. You say, I am doing. You no longer say, one day. You say, it's already unfolding. You no longer ask for alignment. You speak from alignment. And that shift is everything. That shift is frequency. That shift is creation. Because the universe does not respond to need. It responds to clarity, to presence, to coherence. And now your words are clear. Your energy is coherent. Your presence is enough. You speak less, but say more. You pause more often, but carry greater impact. You no longer fill silence with noise. You allow silence to speak for you, because you've remembered. The most powerful voice is the one aligned with truth. Not forced, not desperate, not loud, just true. Your truth is felt now, in the way your yes expands a space, in the way your no holds steady, in the way your energy communicates before your words arrive. You stop shouting into places that don't listen. You stop trying to be understood where you're no longer aligned. You've chosen to speak only in rooms that can receive you. And even when you walk through silence, you walk through it like a prayer, like a frequency, like a vibration the world now tunes itself to meet. This is the power of your voice, anchored in presence, guided by truth, and aligned with the highest version of you. And now, you don't just speak your reality. You live it. You breathe it. You are it. Now that your words are aligned, your voice becomes legacy. Not something you leave behind, but something you imprint into the present moment, into the hearts of those you touch, into the energy that moves long after you've spoken. You're no longer talking just for yourself. You are echoing truth for those still learning how to speak their own. You are no longer declaring things for your gain. You are anchoring light into the collective field. Every time you say, I am whole, you help someone else remember they are, too. Every time you say, I choose peace, you shift the atmosphere for those who haven't found it yet. Every time you say, I am ready, the world reconfigures itself to meet that readiness in form. You are not waiting on your future to give you permission. You're not asking for your destiny to arrive. You're becoming it, with your presence, with your breath, with your word. And this embodiment of spoken truth, this vibrational alignment between thought, voice, and being is where the miracle lives. Because now, nothing you say is wasted. No word is accidental. Every intention is a seed. Every phrase is a portal. Every I am is a key to a new dimension of experience that only opens when you speak it from your center. You've become fluent in creation, not because you mastered language, but because you remembered its original purpose, to make the invisible real, to speak the divine into form. And now, your voice doesn't just describe reality. It writes it, it moves it, it births it. This is what it means to speak as a creator, not a commentator, to speak from source, not survival, to speak from alignment, not ego. This is the language of power. This is the sound of remembrance. This is the voice of the awakened soul. And you're speaking from that place now. You're no longer waiting to find the right words. You're the word. Because you are the word, you're no longer searching for something to say. You're listening for what wants to come through you. You're no longer forcing a message. You are becoming a vessel. The moment you stopped using your voice to survive and started using it to transmit, everything changed. You no longer use words to protect your wounds, but to reveal your healing. You don't speak to be believed. You speak because you believe. And belief carries a vibration, a weight, a resonance that doesn't just fill the air, it moves through it. This is the quiet authority of truth. It doesn't demand. It doesn't manipulate. It simply is, and that is enough. And now, you understand that your voice is part of something greater. That when you speak in alignment, you are speaking not just for you, but for every version of you that stayed silent. Every version that doubted, that feared, that stayed small to feel safe. Each word you speak in truth now sets those versions free. You're rewriting not just your present, but your past. You're reclaiming every moment you silenced your soul because the world wasn't ready to hear it. Now you are ready, and that's all that matters. So speak. Speak your power. Speak your peace. Speak your purpose, not as something you're searching for, but something you've already become. Let the way you speak reflect how far you've come. Let your voice carry the weight of all you've remembered. Let your language echo your light. Because this is the chapter where you no longer ask for alignment. You speak from it. You live it. You radiate it. And when you do, the world begins to listen. It listens not because you shouted, but because your presence spoke first. This is how you command reality. Not by control, but by coherence. You are whole. You are ready. You are already the sound of the life you were born to live. Now breathe. Feel the silence that follows truth. That sacred silence that holds everything and nothing at once. That space where new timelines are born. Not from noise, but from knowing. You've remembered the power of your voice. And now, you walk as one who speaks worlds into being. You walk differently now, not because your steps have changed, but because your energy has. You move with the quiet confidence of someone who no longer needs to be loud to be felt. Someone who no longer needs to be seen to be real. Because when you speak from alignment, when your words rise from the stillness of truth, your presence does the work long before your voice arrives. This is the voice of the soul, not the one that competes, but the one that creates. You stop trying to impress. You stopped using language to fill silence. You've stopped over-explaining your worth. You don't speak to convince anymore. You speak to command, and not with force, but with clarity, with precision, with the authority that only comes when your words match your frequency. That's the real voice of power, not volume, alignment. Now, every I am is sacred. You say it with the knowing that the entire universe responds. You say it and feel the ground shift beneath your feet. Because now, your reality must obey the vibration you carry. It has no choice. You're not waiting for change. You are the change. You are the decree. You are the code. And what you speak now is not just heard. It's felt in bodies, in hearts, in timelines. You've entered the space where language becomes energy, and energy becomes destiny. You're no longer speaking into the void. You're speaking into form, with intention, with devotion, with truth. This is the language of those who remember, those who no longer need permission to be powerful, those who no longer need to soften the truth so others can swallow it. You are not loud. You are clear, and clarity bends reality. So you speak less. But when you do, the universe listens. The world listens. You listen, and that listening is where the real shift begins. Because it's no longer about what you say, but who you are when you say it. And you become someone whose words carry worlds. You've become the embodiment of sacred speech, not just in voice, but in thought, in presence, in vibration. There is no longer a disconnect between what you say and what you are. You no longer say one thing and feel another. You no longer speak desire and embody doubt. You've aligned the voice with the soul, the sound with the source. And because of that, you are unstoppable. You are not just using words to shape your future. You are shaping time, bending the fabric of possibility, with every syllable spoken in full alignment. Because when you say, I am ready, you're not hoping, you're not testing. You're declaring that readiness lives in your bones, that your frequency has caught up to your vision, that there is no longer any part of you left behind. And the universe cannot deny alignment. It mirrors it immediately, undeniably, perfectly. So now, your words are not requests. They are confirmations. You no longer ask if it's coming. You speak as if it's done, because in your field, it is. This is the highest form of language, when speech becomes embodiment, when a voice becomes a mirror of inner truth, when the outside has no choice but to reflect what the inside already holds as real. You're no longer a seeker. You're a speaker of what is. And as you speak it, you live it. And as you live it, it expands. And as it expands, the world shifts to meet you. You've remembered that words are not just tools. They are portals. And you are now the one who opens them with grace, walks through them with power, and leaves them open behind you, so others can follow. You no longer use your voice just to describe your life. You use it to design your life, to declare your future, to direct energy. This is not manifestation. This is mastery. You've remembered the ancient rhythm, the one that says, "In the beginning was the Word." And you have become that beginning again. With every breath, every tone, every sacred "I am," you rewrite the world you walk in. And now, you speak from that place forever. Now you speak not to fill space, but to create it. You speak not to be right, but to be real. Not to be loud, but to be true. There is a softness in your voice now, not because you are uncertain, but because you are sovereign. Your power no longer needs to be proven. It is felt. It moves without effort. It lives inside your tone, your silence, your presence. And now that you live this way, you are free. Free from a need to explain your becoming. Free from the urge to justify your expansion. Free from the pull to overspeak, overshare, overgive. Just to be accepted. You speak when it matters. You listen when it's sacred. You rest when it's time. And your words, when they come, land like truth in a room that forgot what truth sounded like. This is the final step in the language of power. To realize you don't need your voice to be powerful, because your being has become the message. You are the sound. You are the silence. You are the vibration that others feel before you say a single word. And as you walk through the world like this, you become a tuning fork for others. You awaken something ancient in them, not by teaching, but by remembering, not by telling, but by being. And that's what you've become, a living declaration, a frequency of truth, a quiet revolution, a walking I am. And the more you live this way, the more the world reorients itself around your clarity. What's not true falls away. What's aligned finds you. And what's always been yours comes home. So speak now, only when your voice adds beauty. Speak only what you're willing to live. Speak only what you would entrust to the silence that follows. Because your words are no longer just language. They are legacy, and your voice is no longer just sound. It is spirit remembering itself. This is the end of the old voice. This is the beginning of the voice you were always meant to carry. And now, you carry it with reverence. There comes a moment on the journey when time no longer makes sense. When the old way of waiting, hoping, and reaching feels foreign, too slow, too heavy, too far from the truth you now carry in your bones. Because once you've embodied your future self, once you've felt the vibration of what you desire is now, you realize time is just a costume, a container, a story you no longer need. You don't live inside time. Time lives inside you. And once you know this, you begin to collapse it, not by force, not by control, but by frequency. The question is no longer, when will it come? It becomes, can I live like it's already here? And you can. You must. That's the way it arrives. Because the field doesn't respond to what you want in the future. It responds to who you are now. If you keep speaking of what's coming, you keep it coming. But when you speak from what's already here, you make it real. Not through effort, but through alignment. So you stop saying someday. You stop thinking maybe. You stop waiting for proof before you claim the promise. Instead, you breathe in the energy of completion. You walk in the posture of fulfillment. You act from the knowing that nothing is missing. Because in the quantum field, nothing is. The you who already has it exists. Now, fully formed, fully alive. waiting only for you to sync with them, to embody their state, to feel what they feel, choose what they choose, release what they've already let go of. This is the true collapse of time, when the distance between the now and the dream shrinks to a breath, to a thought, to a moment of unwavering alignment. And that alignment is everything. Because the universe does not work in hours or calendars. It works in vibration. It works in wholeness. It works when you no longer ask, how much longer? And instead whisper, it's done. So you begin to live as the one who already knows. Not because you've seen the outcome with your eyes, but because you've felt it in your body. Because you've stood in the vibration of completion and allowed it to shape the way you move, the way you speak, the way you breathe. This is no longer about belief. It's about identity. You're not believing something will happen. You're being the version of you for whom it already has. And that changes everything. Because when you embody the end, you stop vibrating and waiting. You stop asking for signs. You stop rehearsing doubt. You start responding to life as if the miracle has already occurred. You say yes to what matches your future. You say no to what belongs to the past. You don't settle. You don't shrink. You don't negotiate with misalignment because you're no longer trying to become. You are. And when you stand in that frequency, consistently, calmly, truthfully, the illusion of time dissolves. Reality bends. Matter reorganizes. And what once seemed far falls into your hands like it never left. Because it never did. It was waiting, not on your effort, but on your match. And now that you've matched it, you don't chase. You receive. But the receiving doesn't come through force. It comes through certainty. That sacred certainty that lives not in your head, but in your heart, in your body, in your stillness. When you carry that certainty into every moment, you shift the entire timeline. You no longer participate in the delays of doubt. You walk in the field where everything happens now. Now is your power. Now is your portal. Now is where time collapses into presence, and presence becomes destiny. So breathe it in. Feel it as done. Not once, but until it becomes your baseline, your new normal, your frequency of truth. And when the world says, how do you know it's coming? You don't answer with logic. You answer with your life, with your energy, with the clarity of someone who's already there. Because in every way that matters, you're already there, in the energy, in the essence, in a field where all things are already complete. And so you live now as a mirror of that completion, not waiting for the evidence to appear, but walking as the evidence itself. This is the power of presence. When you are fully here, the future collapses into your hands. Time becomes irrelevant, and you become inevitable. You stop moving from pressure. You move from peace. Because pressure is the language of the old self. The one who thought more effort meant more results. But you now understand. What is aligned cannot miss you. And what misses you is never aligned. So you don't grip anymore. You don't chase. You attract by returning. Returning to center. Returning to trust. Returning to the version of you that doesn't need to wait to feel whole. You realize that time was just a teacher. A patient guide showing you that what you longed for was never somewhere in the distance. It was waiting in your vibration, ready to rise the moment you did. So now you live inside the miracle. You feel in the breath. You anchor in the body. You hold it with your being. And in doing so, you let go of timelines. You release urgency. You dissolve the need to know when. Because you know, and that's enough. Now, every moment becomes sacred, not because of what's happening, but because of who you're being in it. You make tea as if the vision is done. You walk your street as if abundance already lives in your pockets. You speak as if love already sleeps beside you. You write, you rest, you rise, as if the future has already bowed to your frequency. And it has, because time is not distance. Time is devotion. Time bends to belief, and belief becomes form. You're no longer ruled by clocks and calendars. You are ruled by resonance, and resonance is eternal. So trust the stillness, trust the space, trust the now, because the more you live like it's already done, the more everything rushes to meet the you who already is. And now that you're living inside the frequency of already, you begin to experience a kind of peace that cannot be explained, only embodied. A peace that says, I don't need to see it to know it's here. A peace that walks into every moment, without reaching, without grasping, without fear. You begin to witness how ease becomes the access point to miracles. Not laziness, not avoidance, but sacred ease, the natural result of alignment with truth. You're no longer proving anything to anyone, not even to yourself. You've made contact with what is real, and what is real doesn't need defense. It only needs space, so you give it space. You stop crowding the moment with expectation. You stop clouding your clarity with anxious questions. You stop bargaining with time, and instead, you offer your presence as the proof. You let your energy speak what words never could. It is done, not in theory, not in hope, but in vibration. You understand now. The universe doesn't need more from you. It needs more of you, the real you, the one who knows, the one who feels, the one who trusts the unseen more than the temporary. You've collapsed time, not by running faster, but by being still enough to catch up to your truth. And now, you stop asking for signs. You become the sign. You stop watching the clock. You start watching your frequency. You hold the vibration longer. You stay with the embodiment longer. You refuse to drop into doubt, just because the physical hasn't yet caught up. Because the moment you drop into fear, you re-enter time. You step back into waiting. You invite delay. But the moment you return to certainty, gently, consistently, you re-enter the field where everything is now. And the more you stay there, the more the gap closes, the more the separation dissolves, the more the vision becomes the room you walk through. This is mastery, not of time, but of presence, not of manifesting, but of being. And now, you are not waiting. You are welcoming. And what's already yours is simply responding to the frequency you never stopped holding. You're no longer counting the days. You're calibrating the energy. You're no longer measuring progress by what's visible. You're measuring it by how deeply you remain in state. And this state, this now, is sacred, because now you are the bridge between the unseen and the seen, between what was imagined and what is embodied. You become the place where the future finds form, and everything begins to respond, not because you pushed harder, but because you stayed anchored longer. You are learning that consistency is not repetition. It is devotion, a quiet, powerful return to the self, again and again, even when nothing outside seems to be moving. Because you know now, it's always moving, just beneath the surface, just beyond the senses, always listening, always aligning. The quantum doesn't need convincing. It needs coherence, and your inner coherence is now magnetic. So while others speak of patience as waiting, you've discovered it as presence. And while others wait for permission to believe, you've chosen to believe first and forever. You don't wait for evidence. You become it. You don't plead for alignment. You live it. You walk through your day with the energy of someone who knows they are being met by everything they've already called in, because the timeline is already opened, and all that's left to do is stay there, not because it guarantees the outcome, but because it is the outcome. This is the reward, this state, this freedom, this knowing. So now you're not attached to how it looks. You're devoted to how it feels, because how it feels is the only real signal, and you've learned to follow that signal. Like breath, like compass, like sacred rhythm. And with every inhale, you choose again. To live as the one who no longer waits. To live as the one who already is. Time bends here. Reality responds here. Miracles land here. And here is now, the only place you ever truly needed to be. So here you are, not chasing, not doubting, but embodying. This is what it means to collapse time. To no longer measure your journey by hours or days, but by depth, by alignment, by the steadiness of your vibration. You live now from a different place. You move with a quiet knowing. And even when things appear still on the surface, you feel the current underneath, always flowing, always guiding, always responding. You've stopped needing signs because you're the signal. You've stopped checking for confirmation because your inner state is the confirmation. And in this way, you've become the future. You've become the reality. You've become the fulfilled prophecy of your own becoming. Others may not see it yet. They may still ask, but how do you know? And you will smile, not out of arrogance, but out of truth, because it's no longer about belief. It's about being, and you're being what once felt impossible. You've dissolved the waiting. You've stopped holding time like a barrier, and instead, you hold presence, like an open doorway, where what's meant for you arrives, without struggle, without delay, without needing to be earned, because alignment is not earned. It is chosen, and you've chosen it, again and again, until it became your home. So now you don't ask when, you simply breathe. You don't search, you allow. You don't push, you become. And as you become, the world rearranges. As you breathe, the field responds. As you stay, everything that was already yours simply arrives. This is where time collapses into you, and you realize it was never about getting there. It was always about remembering. You already were. You've traveled through silence, through truth, through power. You've remembered who you are beneath the noise, beneath the time, beneath the story. Now you return, not to the beginning, but to the essence. You're not seeking anymore. You are seeing. You are not running anymore. You are resting. You are not becoming anymore. You are being. And in this being, you shine. Not for attention, but for alignment. Not to be seen, but because you can no longer hide. The light that you carry now is not loud. It is steady. It is soft. It is sovereign. You speak when it's time. You move when it's true. You love with your whole presence, not as performance, but as truth. And the world feels it. You've stopped needing permission to live as your highest self. You are your highest self. Here now, grounded, real. You walk through the same places, but nothing feels the same because you are not the same. You are the return, the flame that never went out, the breath that came back deeper, the soul that remembered its own name. You live now not to prove, but to radiate, not to escape, but to anchor, not to reach something greater, but to live what you've always been. Whole, holy, home. You stopped looking for signs. You become the sign. You stopped asking for light. You become the light. And now you walk forward, not needing to manifest, but knowing that your presence creates. This is what it means to return, not to go back, but to rise so fully into yourself that there is nowhere left to go but here. And here is everything. So breathe. Let it land. Let it settle. Let it be done. And now, if this journey touched something deep in you, if you felt seen, held, reminded, then don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Let someone else come home too. And don't forget to subscribe. We're here every day, bringing new words to feed the soul you're finally listening to. You are the light, and the light has returned. Now just live it and let the world feel you.